is up, everyone? What is up? Happy Monday. Whoever invented Mondays should be brought to the guillotine. What's everyone up to? I've been working on the LLM server and stuff, and it's been a little bit of a headache. I was running into some weird hardware issues. I think it's due to the fact that I was using one of my extra motherboards and CPUs I had laying around for a year or so. Basically, I was getting this weird behavior where I would SSH in from this desktop to remotely control it, and after like 20-30 seconds, it'd just hang. But then I could SSH in from my laptop on Wi-Fi, be perfectly fine. And this is the only device I've ever had weird connection issues with. And I was planning to go to Micro Center anyway. I got to exchange some stuff, so I'm gonna be exchanging the motherboard I was planning for the TTS build for a micro ATX board, so I have an extra slot, and then a larger ATX board for the LLM server, so I can space the cards out. And what I think the issue is maybe the network interface card. So I got a couple of Intel i210s coming in, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Bear with me, I just took some Tylenol because I had a headache. You know, gotta get them autism juices flowing, right? Over for the YouTube peeps, y'all should be experiencing a better quality stream. The reason why? You now have AV1 encoding. That's right. Twitch apparently doesn't have that enabled yet. It's a big annoyance, because they apparently talked about it a year ago, and that was the whole reason I got the NVIDIA 5050, was to start doing AV1 encoding so I could do better quality streams and stuff. But you know, what's interesting is the GPU is actually not even being taxed nearly as much as it was. I remember when I did 4 streams before, I would experience the GPU going to like 80%, and it's only touching like 50 right now. That's some headroom. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we do more AV1. What do you think are basics that a beginner must be proficient when running around VMs? What do you mean? Oh, when running the VMs. Really just setting up virtual networks and stuff like that, knowing the difference between type 1 and type 2 hypervisors. I always get this confused. Type 1 hypervisors, I think, let me remember, one sits above the OS, one can directly interface with the hardware. Type 1 hypervisor. I always get that confused for some reason. Okay, a Type 1 hypervisor runs directly on the host hardware without an underlying operating system. So, like, if you're doing a VM on Windows, VirtualBox is a Type 2. It sits on top of the operating system. Every CPU for, like, the past 10 or 15 years has had, accelerations. Like, on Intel, it's, VTD, VTX. And they actually will allow VMs to be accelerated. So you'll notice a massive performance difference when you do a VM on Hyper-V on Windows, or you're using a Type 1 on Linux like KVM QEMU. I'm using QEMU for a lot of my things. There's Zen when I'm doing Cubes OS. You know, many of you have heard of Proxmox. There's VMware VMware hypervisor, whatever they have, but Broadcom bought them and they went basically know the differences between that, virtual networks, and there isn't much to really know when it comes to virtual machines other than it's a Russian nesting doll of a computer and a computer inside a computer, and that you have more portability with the configurations and stuff like that. So when it comes to running a VM, more of the knowledge is actually around the hypervisor than the VM itself. The VM, you maybe at most need to know the extensions, like with QEMU, as I mentioned, you're going to need an extension pack. VirtualBox does have an extension pack, some of you are aware of that. By the way, that VirtualBox extension pack You can use that in your personal environment, but you're not allowed to use that in an enterprise. There's a totally different license for that. So, watch out for that. But yeah, so learn more about the hypervisor side of things. And if you're on Windows, there's a big reason why I always tell people to get the professional versions of Windows. I have never, and I mean this legitimately, in my entire life, even when my parents were buying computers for me, had a home edition of Windows. Because my dad worked in tech, so we always had like Windows XP Pro, Windows, whatever Pro version. It was always Pro and Enterprise. I now rock Enterprise when I do Windows now 11. But yeah, that's why, like, when people are like wondering why should you get the professional version of Windows, it's not just Active Directory. There are some advantages in there for Hyper-V. And the honest truth is, if you're looking at getting a job in tech, you're more likely to have a job want you to use Hyper-V over VirtualBox, because that's what a lot of enterprises are actually doing for their servers. And a fun fact when it comes to Windows Server licensing, just so you're aware, last I recall, you get a Windows Server standard license that actually covers one hypervisor and 2 virtual machines, if I'm not mistaken, unless they've changed that. So there's ways you can have fun with that. Why my AMD laptop only support 32 gigabytes of RAM when the same laptop with Intel can run with 64? Because it's a different setup. Different, one may be DDR4, one may be DDR5. Been really enjoying Debian over Ubuntu on my computer. Yeah, Debian's kind of nice. The only issue I have with Debian is, because it is emphasized on stability, the packages are older. Don't get me wrong, I like Debian. I'm not hating on it. But even for my own server needs, I'm running Ubuntu 2404 for the LLM box. Particularly because I want to get those latest NVIDIA drivers through the, the line, get the newer kernel. I was just having to do that with the hardware enablement stack to go from kernel 6.8 to 6.14. Yeah. I will have some TikToks about the LLM server and videos as well, and there will also be a sponsor in the next few weeks for some videos. I'll be honest, it's a product you've already seen me use a million times, so it shouldn't really come to a surprise, but y'all know the drill. I will only ever work with products I actually believe in and will use myself. I have turned down so many companies. I think my rejection rate's somewhere around 90-95%. Believe me, I have tons of companies wanting to send me BS. I've had some companies send me products, and I've told them it's absolute shit. I'm not making a video on it. VMware is free right now. So is QEMU. I wouldn't touch VMware with the 10-foot pole since Broadcom bought them. Please hate on some Linux distribution. I do. Arch. The CrossFit vegans of Linux. And somebody asked me the other day, what if Arch is the CrossFit vegans of Linux, what is Gen 2? They are the freaking vegans. That's what I come to the conclusion of. They are the freaking vegans. I'm getting brain attacks and stormy P1s with IBM AIX these days. What? Oh. The P-Series laptops, probably. Yeah. And then obviously, it's November now. I'm trying to, grow a beard. There's no try. My Moroccan roots will take over, and then before you know it, I will be one with the nature. You ever do a 180 and show Windows? Maybe on April Fool's Day. When April Fool's Day comes, expect some trolling. Have you played around with Firebase Studio at all? I have not. Oh. Speaking of Studio, I've been working on my projects. So, I don't know if any of you have been monitoring my GitHub. Not a lot of people monitor my GitHub. I actually have been making headway on my security issues. So last I checked, code scanning, there are these two vulnerabilities here, and I did knock them out earlier today. I can actually close these. They weren't that severe because they were Dockerized, but yeah. So you can see. Wait. Oh no, that's an old one. So it'll probably get taken care of in the next scan. But yeah, I got rid of these two mediums here. These are just code quality things. That one, I gotta figure out what that's going on with that. But it's all Docker stuff, so I'm not really too concerned. But that's Stream Daemon. The tool that I use to alert everyone when I'm live. I moved it over to a Raspberry Pi 4 finally. I was running it on this 3B Plus. But the issue is, well, the problem is this only has 1 GB of RAM. It would run my projects, don't get me wrong. But I'm starting to Dockerize all my stuff, so this ended up only running 2 Docker containers until it kind of got full, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna have a lot more stuff coming that way, so I found my Pi 4 I had spare. Did you obtain the cricket sound? Oh yeah, I have crickets around here somewhere, hold on. I don't know if you hear it. But yeah, so it's been good. I've been tinkering with some stuff, getting the pipeline set up to take care of all of my problems with different code, setting up the LLM server, then I got to get the TTS server, so Gitz was like, oh, I'm going to get that done, we're going to get that done in a day, and I looked at him and I'm like, it's going to be at least a week of tinkering. Watch. And I was right! Probably going to be closer to 2 weeks. I still find it amazing that you have to use the NVIDIA open source drivers to get the newest GPUs to work. Because the 3050 worked on proprietary ones, but the 5060 Ti would not work on the proprietary drivers. Blew my mind, because I was under the assumption, you know what they say about assuming, that the proprietary one would have worked better, because, you know, NVIDIA proprietary code, but apparently they're changing their ways. Who knows? Maybe one day NVIDIA will actually have their drivers integrated into the Linux kernel, and then we won't have to install Linux drivers in addition to it. We just will have to update our Linux kernels. Won't that be nice? How Dreamcast with 8 megabytes of VRAM ran anything? Well, you have to remember, back then our TVs were what, 480 by 320 or 320 by 240? Something like that. Very low. We had a lot more simpler graphics, but I will make this comment. Has anyone noticed the requirements for video games is going through the roof, yet the quality is not really that much better? Like, I was sitting there the other day, and I'm looking at, like, Borderlands and Doom and stuff like that, and I'm like, these aren't that much better than the games I had when I had half a gigabyte of VRAM. So why do I need 16 gigs for my next setup? It makes no sense to me. I love Linux servers, but I could never find a version of Linux that's set and forget. What's a Linux desktop experience you'd recommend for someone who can't shake Windows? I use Pop! OS. I like the layout of it. Some people like Linux Mint. There's also Parrot OS. But I personally like Pop OS. It's been pretty set and forget. I installed this on this machine a couple years ago. I had to reinstall it only because Windows messed up the bootloader. Because I was trying to dual boot for a while, and then I didn't have Windows turned on for like a year. Went to do a BIOS update on this machine. Went to go, shall we say, send some faxes in the bathroom. Come back. Windows has been booted on for 30 minutes, and it was long enough for it to pull updates, install them, wipe out the bootloader for Linux, and I spent like several hours trying to, get the bootloader fixed until I'm like, you know what? It's just going to be quicker for me to just pull all my files off that haven't been backed up to the NAS within the past day and reinstall Pop OS. And it was actually a net positive because I had been wanting to move all of my system over to Flatpaks, and that was just clean slate. Because devs are relying on DLS as not upscaling rather than actually optimizing games. They're not even doing that right. Have y'all seen my Borderlands experience when you put on DLSS and it looks like crap? You have to use the Epic TSS for it to work. And even then on a 3070, I'm only getting like 20 to 30 frames per second. It's ridiculous. I've been trying to get into Linux, but for some reason it just never wants to install to my SSD. That shouldn't be an issue. You may have to turn off secure boot, boot off a flash drive, install. I haven't really had any machine that hasn't really installed it. And I've gone through a lot of machines. What about a March? I talked about that a while ago. I'm just not particularly a fan of DHH, and I'm not an Arch user. Arch users are CrossFit vegans of Linux. I just want to set my machine up, let it be, and then just focus on my work. I don't want to worry about the operating system as much. Keeps defaulting to your HDD. That might be something... I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that you may have to bring over to the Discord, and some people will be able to help you out because they'll probably be needing to have screenshots and all that stuff for the troubleshooting and yada, yada, yada. Linux Mint on a $50 Dell Inspiron from a charity on eBay turned me into a Linux user. Well, yeah, it's beautiful that you can actually use old machines. The one thing that I've really hated for many years is the amount of e-waste we have as a society. There's no reason that a lot of us should be throwing away the computers we have just because, oh, it doesn't support Vista. Oh, it doesn't support 7 or 8 or 10 or 11. We've gone through these issues, over time. Although 11 is probably the biggest offender of this, where there are companies selling pallets of machines, perfectly fine, nothing wrong with them. They just won't run Windows 11. I mean, that's a benefit for us home labbers, because then we get to pick them up for like 30, 40, 50 bucks a pop, and then get to install Linux, and we have a great machine. And it really surprises a lot of people when I pull out computers that are like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and my Linux box is actually running faster than theirs, and you just have to replace the battery. My 5-year-old System 76 laptop is still running Parrot OS fine. I was just using it this afternoon to troubleshoot my server. I love Windows to my core, but can't stand the privacy and ad issues. I want to leave Microsoft. And you don't really love them. You are in an abusive domestic relationship with Microsoft. You have had Stockholm Syndrome. You don't really love my Windows. You just have become familiar with it. You've been trapped in the room so long that you have now basically bonded with it. It's trauma bonding. It's not real love. Yeah, it's hard to dual boot if you're using the same drive for both OSs. I use separate SSDs. No, I was using separate SSDs. I had a 2 terabyte NVMe for Linux and a 1 terabyte NVMe on here for Windows. And somehow Windows still booted up after a BIOS update, like I said, when I went to the bathroom. And then nuked my bootloader. I don't know how. So I wiped Windows off, and now it's another, terabyte of scratch disk along with the 2 terabyte SATA disks that I have in there. Is Pop Debian or Ubuntu based? Pop is Ubuntu based, which just means it's Debian with extra steps. That's probably also NVIDIA drivers being shit with Linux. Not really. Like I was talking about earlier, the 5060 Ti that I threw in my soon-to-be LLM box worked on the open source NVIDIA drivers. Not Nouveau, the official NVIDIA open source drivers from NVIDIA. The 580 drivers. This is my experience. I have a 2070 Super. I have a 3070 over here. And then my Tuxedo laptop is a 4070. My LLM box is a 5060 Ti and a 3050. My TTS server is soon going to have a 1660 Super. I've not had issues with NVIDIA. NVIDIA's not really all that bad on Linux anymore. I mean, yeah, AMD's probably a smoother experience because they've actually had the leg up and integrated their drivers directly into the kernel, so you don't have to do that, but yeah. Secure boot is off, keeps defaulting to my HDD. Something's going on with the BIOS and how it's selecting it then. I don't know what else to tell you. There's something there you're gonna have to fiddle with, to get it seen. You may have... It's one of those, I'd have to, see it, basically, situations. Boot off a flash drive for the main boot. Yeah. You have to allocate space on SSD. Maybe. Tried OpenSUSE, Arch, Mint, and Ubuntu, and they all have deal breakers. Try Pop. Try Parrot. The reality is you can always, rip and replace different parts of the operating system if you really want to. There's nothing stopping you from doing that if you so desire. Let me see. Been a silent viewer for a bit. Glad to see you live. Okay, Cooper. Happy hacking, bud. Windows keeps just messing up every update. Well, as I talked about many times, it has to do with the fact that Windows has done away with their proper testing. I've said this before, maybe you're on a stream before and you've heard me talk about it, but Microsoft used to have warehouses of computers for testing. Let me see if I can find one of those pictures. They used to have warehouses of computers for testing configurations of machines of all kinds. I forgot where I saw a picture of it a long time ago. But yeah, there's literally they used to have warehouses, row upon row upon row of computers of every make, model, and configuration. And it would run automated tests through Windows with various collections of softwares to identify issues. Microsoft has determined it's much cheaper to turn everyone else into a guinea pig with the Windows Insider program. They push code out too fast, they don't test it as thoroughly, and a lot of this has to do, it's an overall problem in the software industry. Because now that we have the internet, they're not as worried about making sure it's thoroughly tested and vetted for users before they actually use it. Because before the internet was as widespread as it is now, if you had an issue, you had to get like a disc or something sent to you from the company. Like in the mail, physically, snail mail. Nowadays, how many games get released and have like a 20 or 30 gigabyte day zero patch update? Because they're always, going to have the mentality now of get it out as fast as we can, and we can fix the bugs once it's out there. That's the mentality of a lot of software companies now. Things have changed. Like the most mundane stuff will break everything. Yeah, Windows has just become more and more unstable. Windows XP Service Pack 2 and Service Pack 3 were probably peak Windows in terms of stability and just how rock solid they were. Some people may argue Windows 7. Either one. I nuked my bootloader for my dual boot. I had to manually make dual bootloader. Windows boots, Linux does not. Yeah, that'll happen because Windows is a bully on the playground and will overwrite your bootloader so that only Windows boots. Yep, had that happen many times. Nope, before I did a GPU swap, I had a 2060 Super and it worked just fine. Yeah. Get that way when NVIDIA relies on Linux for bread these days. Well, as we talked about also, what's interesting is Steam is reporting that now they've hit 3% of all users on Steam are using Linux. There are officially more users now on Linux than Mac on Steam. And I know a lot of people are like, 3%, that's not a lot. On the low end, they estimate that there's 100 million users of Steam. On the high end, it's 220. 3% is still a chunk of people. I'm not saying like it's gonna, overtake Windows or anything like that in, maybe the next year or two, but my God, Windows 11 has been the best advertisement for Linux. Yeah, I'm imaging. I just need to mess with the installer. I have the space allocated. I did join the Discord, so if anything doesn't work, I'll ask there. Cool. Follow for a while. Just use your suggestion to buy my first crypto wallet, the Trezor 5. Nice. I like the Trezors. The Trezor safes, the latest ones they have. This is the Safe 3. I like these because they actually have the secure enclave, because when I was actually building my own Trezor wallet, I made one. I wanted to see how open source they are, so there's Raspberry Pi Zero in here, and this actually runs the official Trezor software, like I could use it with the Trezor suite and everything. The problem is the old Trezors didn't have a secure enclave, whereas the new ones do. They found one that was reasonable enough. Ledger had one, but Ledger is, well, a prick. I don't like the direction Ledger went in. I just saw your other video's title. How did you get into cybersecurity after leaving computer repair? Oh, well. Just one thing led to another. When I was working for an MSP doing firewalls, server administration, it was a small company of like 5 people. I got to wear many different hats, and I really liked cybersecurity and the aspects of what I was doing there. Just because I was, tinkering, building, and then I got to home labbing. Because the problem is, I'll just be honest with you. Building computers is fun and all, but it gets boring after a while. Because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and building a computer now is too easy. Like, it's no more than an expensive Lego set. You can go to Micro Center, you can buy all your parts, put your machine together, slap Windows or Linux on it, and be done within a couple of hours. Back when I started building computers, there was a challenge to it. you had to set IRQs, DMAs, install your drivers in the right order. There was a whole science to it. And cybersecurity, you know, scratched that itch of tinkering and building and doing things. But yeah, it's getting bad, but vendor locked, yeah. Wish I could use Windows 10 still. Would it be okay if you run Windows 10 with good antivirus? No. No. When Windows is end of life, and I'm going to be making a whole video talking about this, vendors move on as well. The only way you can possibly get an antivirus to work properly for Windows 10 is you're using one made for a corporation, an EDR XDR system. By the way, how's the quality over on YouTube? Because it kind of looks like it's stuttering a little bit since I started doing AV1. It feels like it's kind of being jank over there. Do I need to restart the stream over on the YouTube side? Let me know. Oh, and someone was asking what other platforms am I streaming on? Twitch, YouTube, Kick, TikTok. So I'm on 4 platforms at once. Of course, the streams are more optimized for Twitch with all the features and all that. But I'm trying to build out things for Kick and all that. Hold on. Okay, if the, yeah, I may have to, restart the YouTube side of it. Hold on. I apologize. Okay, so the tubes should be restarted, I think. YouTube gets kind of weird. There we go. Okay. That should be better. It's on H.264 now. I was testing out AV1, but I saw it like stuttering in the monitor because I was trying to monitor the progress of it. It is what it is. But what's interesting is with H.264, I'm using more GPU processing power than I was on AV1. Interesting. Do I do any smart contract development? No, I do not. I don't do that. Dr. Chief, I found this colorful mushroom. Should I eat it? Well, how colorful is it? And by colorful, does it make you see colors once you eat it? I have lags regardless in your stream and you look 240p before 480. TikTok's weird. The stream's a little bit better over on the Twitch side. It may be a little twitchy. But I think part of that's also because I'm trying to push it out at 60 frames a second. I might start cutting it down to 30. At least on the TikTok side. Well, TikTok also, I cut the quality down and I only push out 720p. Because you're on a phone. And you're not really going to notice much difference on a phone. When do you think the job market will improve? When Donald Trump is out of frickin' office. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make this political, but the tariffs have wreaked havoc on the tech economy. And businesses in general. Because businesses need to have stability, consistency. They need to be able to plan for the next quarter, the next year. And we're moving on these like whims and wild, you know, swings of you're going to get a tariff, you're not. You're going to get double the tariff, you're not. You know, like, and all that. We don't know what's coming and going, that we have so much uncertainty that a lot of businesses are very, very, very slow to hire at all because they don't know if they can support the employee coming in, because they don't know what the actual expenses and overall profit will be, because they may make revenue, but then they're going to be eaten up by tariffs. You have people that are getting products in that are getting hit with massive tariff bills for things that just got off the boat. And for a lot of people that are like, well, the prices are not, you know, that expensive right now. A lot of the products right now were still bought a while ago before the tariffs were impacted. You're going to start seeing it around the holiday season, and it's going to get worse continuing on into the next year. That's unfortunately the reality right now. The keyframe with frequency of 4 seconds. YouTube just threw me a little error. It's like use a keyframe of 4 seconds or less. Oh, weird. Look, man, I just work here. That's there. Do I not have the ability? I thought I did. Anyway. Lag is restored after switching. What do you mean the lag is restored? Like, it's still laggy, or it's better now? Before, it was, like, completely, like, stopping, and I saw the jump. I don't know, YouTube's kind of just janky for some things. But I at least stream there, because I have an audience there. It's okay, I'm in my own little world, but I know people here. Do not eat the mushroom. I ate it now. I see sound and color. Alright, 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 alright. But yeah, not at all wrong about that, good sir. We can't be predictive and stable in an economy on a whim. Yep. That's why we know he was not really that good of a business person. Because he's not really that intelligent. I'm just being honest. And the people that are saying he's really that intelligent, no, he's not. Listen to the way he talks. And I honestly think he's losing his mental faculties. The same thing he was accusing Joe Biden of, which, by the way, didn't care for Biden either. Biden's a schmuck, too, in a different regard. Let's be honest, most politicians are, well, almost all of them, I'd say like a good 98% of them are schmucks. And the other 2% are just diet schmuck. I can't use Signal because I don't have anyone using it to talk to. Well, you know, when you go out and you make friends at all these cybersecurity conferences, you will definitely find people to use Signal. I have chats on Signal that literally, if I put my phone down for like an hour or two, there's several hundred messages. Well, not several hundred, but that's maybe like in a day. But, yeah. But yeah, I use Signal quite a bit. I text a lot of my friends with it. It's actually the one thing I tell, like, when I start dating people, I'm like, you know, we should hop over to Signal. You can make friends at cybersecurity conferences. Wicked. How you been, buddy? I haven't seen you in a while. And yes, you can do lots of things when you go out and touch grass. How's the mushroom guy still typing? I think you mean Telegram is a dodgy place. I wonder why police don't tear it down. Yeah, the, Telegram is, not a good place in multiple ways. And it is an app I will never recommend people use. I've had multiple videos bashing it because it is not encrypted. It is not encrypted. You can enable encryption as an option when you are, on a one-to-one basis, but as soon as you're in a group chat, it's unencrypted. Which blows my mind, to your point. You know, police not tearing it down. The information's right there out in the open. Like, there's not encrypted. Struggling but consistent, so I got that going for me, which is nice. Alright. Well, glad to see that you're still around. Chief, you have friends? Yeah. Me, myself, and I. Nah, but seriously, I got friends all over. What 4 platforms are you streaming on? I am on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and TikTok. Twitch is probably the better place. Most of my stuff is optimized for Twitch. I don't know how I just heard about Signalgate. Did you just hear? What? That was literally wall-to-wall everywhere. For weeks. My God. I would have, loved to have your ability of being able to ignore the problems of the world. That blows my mind. You just heard about Signalgate. Signalgate was what? May? No, was it April? April, May, somewhere around there. I know I made a video about it a while ago. I made several videos about it. Had a video, I did a whole freaking expose that was over an hour long. I'm probably never gonna make a video that long again, because that was a lot of freaking work. Took me like 4 hours to record that crap. Another like week to edit it. My God. Too much work. The look and astonishment on your face is most entertaining. It's not really astonishment, it's more baffling. Though I guess it's a little bit of column A and column B, though. But still, I would love to have that ability to just, not know about the problems of the world. Only reason I heard about it is the recommendations of YouTube after watching a DEF CON video. Really? Yeah, that was wall-to-wall everywhere. I made entire stickers I was handing out at DEF CON for that. There was I had 4 stickers I handed out at DEF CON. I still have some upstairs. I'm gonna hand out some more of those at the next con. Depending on which one. If there's a B-sides or that. And then I'll have my new sticker design probably by then, too. I had the We're Going Fishing with an Octa logo. We're Going Smishing with a little, smish text on there. I had Hillary Clinton with a little speech bubble saying, "Don't you miss when it was just emails?" Hashtag Signalgate. And then I had this really interesting designed one that I had. I actually used AI to help create it a little bit, where, this message will destruct in 7 days, just like government accountability or something like that. I'll have to find it. The recommended video was a DEF CON video. I just subbed you yesterday after one of your shorts. Oh, nice. Well, happy hacking and welcome to the clan. Alright, so I had some videos queued up that I definitely wanted to watch with y'all. So apparently, this is a video about how Russia shut down the internet. So, let's see what this video's about over here. Probably should get my audio working for y'all. No, you don't need to do this on every Linux. You just have to do this because I have my audio go to 2 places. Streambox and headphones. Alright.
Across Russia, the internet isn't just censored, it's being switched off. What began as temporary anti-drone measures has now turned into hundreds of blackouts every month. Entire regions are losing access, shutting down payments.
I've actually heard about this through some friends.
Today, we'll talk about how Russia's shutdown system works.
The Great Firewall of Russia? No, it's like worse than China.
To the Russian
like they're actually shut down in areas.
Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, I want to talk about how the internet, or the lack of internet, is affecting the growth of the Russian economy. Now, this issue actually started
That's saying
officially
a lot because
because
there's
Russia
still
was worried that drone
a lot to pick
attacks
up
were
from
going to bring
communist
down the
era.
whole of the internet system. So they strategically were closing down certain parts of the country. However, this has now become so commonplace that there are questions being raised as to whether or not this is genuinely to protect the internet from drone attacks, or if this is simply a way of the Russian authorities controlling what's going on with
If the
regards to the
government
spread of
tells you they're
information.
restricting your
Obviously,
rights for a
if you
reason,
don't have
it's
access
not
to
for
the
the reason they
internet,
say.
it's going to have a huge economic impact because everything is online these days. You think about the amount of time that you spend online buying things, researching things, having a look into things, watching YouTube, watching people like me on YouTube. It's a huge
Watching people
part
like
of
me.
everybody's life. So if you didn't have access to the internet, if you literally couldn't go online, it would have a huge economic impact. Now, in terms of how is this being operated, what's going on? Well, the government in Russia has built a central control system for all internet and mobile traffic, and every single internet provider and mobile operator is now connected to a national monitoring hub run by the communications regulator. And this allows the Kremlin
That sounds
to
a little bit
slow,
more extreme than
block, or
China.
completely cut access to any region within minutes. Local governors or
Yeah, that's
security
definitely more
agencies
extreme than
can
China.
trigger these shutdowns under the excuse
China
of
has tight grip,
defending
but
against drone attacks.
not like that.
And the system cuts data in 4 different ways. They can either order mobile operators to disable mobile data for specific regions. They can throttle or block apps such as WhatsApp, Telegram, or Google Maps. They can reroute traffic away from certain regions so nothing actually loads on your mobile or your desktop or anything that you're trying to access the internet via. Or they can turn off mobile towers around air defense zones, which basically then just means that the signal drops out and nobody has any internet access.
That's a bit
And a
frightening.
new rule now automatically blocks foreign SIM cards from using mobile data for the first 24 hours after entering Russia.
What?
Now, this is said to be for security reasons, but it also cuts off tourists and foreign workers from the grid. So, when did this all start? Well, in 2019,
Well, not just that.
the Kremlin actually
I'm
passed
too afraid
a
of being
legal
black-hooded
ruling
and thrown in
saying
a
that
van
it
in
had
Russia.
the power to shut down the
24
internet.
hours.
But it didn't really do anything with that power until the war in Ukraine started in 2022. And in 2025, the number of shutdowns has exploded. It's really taken off over the past 10 months. And we're now talking about hundreds of blackouts every single month, with some regions losing entire days to blackouts. And it's been recorded that
insane.
over 650 separate shutdowns took place in June, making Russia the world's leader in deliberate internet blackouts. And outages often coincide with major public events or Ukrainian drone attacks, suggesting that this is coordinated with the military. So where is this happening?
It's
Is it
to
just in
control the
specific
flow of
regions,
information.
or is it across the whole of Russia? Well, initially, it was isolated to just those regions that were bordering Ukraine. So Belgorod, Kursk, and Bryansk were the first that started suffering problems. And they had repeated mobile data cuts during air raids and drone attacks. So everything went into blackout. And residents complained about not being able to go online, do things like banking and shopping and just the normal everyday things.
See, you're disrupting the average person. You can't function in this society without internet.
Regions. It then spread to the industrial heartlands when Ukraine started to extend the range of their drone attacks. However, today it's all across the country.
How would you go about airport
and
OPSEC? Would you just give them access to
has
your
suffered
devices?
from 17 shutdowns in the past 2
Graphene
months.
OS,
So if you
baby.
think about that. In 2 months, we're talking about 60 days, roughly.
You know,
If you
Graphene
had
OS, they
17
can't even
days out of
access
the
the
last
data
60
fully,
where you weren't able
even when
to
you
do
unlock your phone,
anything
apparently.
online. So this isn't just your mobile data. This would be affecting your broadband at home, at work, anywhere, really. You wouldn't be able to
I'm looking
communicate
into
with
Laura
people.
Halo
You
and Satellite
potentially
Block.
couldn't message people. You wouldn't be able to check anything on the internet, do any shopping.
I've been doing that
do
for a
any
few
Teams
months.
calls or Zoom calls or anything that you might want to do.
Or if you have an
with your
iPhone.
work. So this is going to have a huge
Advanced
economic
data
impact
protection.
on the Russian economy. Now, in
Enable
terms
it.
of the economic impact, let's
I
have a
have
look
an iPhone,
at
too.
all of the different sectors of the internet traffic that are being affected. Now, the biggest impact has been on e-commerce. If you think about what you use the internet for, it's probably to buy things online. Maybe you go to Amazon or some other website and buy things and have home delivery. It's made things
If it
much
wasn't for
easier
the
than having
internet,
to go to
I'd have a
the
larger
store.
savings account.
E-commerce is a huge business for lots of different countries, including Russia. And online retailers have had major problems because people can't get onto their sites to actually buy stuff. But even when they have bought things, when the internet goes down, those online retailers can't track where the deliveries are. They can't manage their logistics. So it's causing problems not just with the initial order, but also with the actual carrying through of the order and delivering it and making sure that somebody knows that it's been delivered and you've got that photo of the parcel on your doorstep, all of those sort of things. And it's estimated that the monthly
Windows for
cost
Pop OS
of the
11. Nice.
shutdowns that are occurring at the moment is between 60 and 80 billion rubles per month. So that's around about $1 billion
Jesus!
from sales that are impacting on the Russian economy. Now, banking and payments is something that
You're
we're all familiar
intentionally
with using
gutting
online.
your
I
own
think
economy.
most of us have apps on our phone or whatever it might be. You might do it on your desktop, where you go on, you make payments, you check your money, all of those sorts of things. So in the same way as
What would my
e-commerce,
day-to-day
there's the
life look like
initial
if I were 1
problem
week without
of
the
people
internet?
not being able to go online
lot
and
of
make
ham
those
radio.
payments. But there's also business
I'm a
issues
ham operator.
because if the internet goes down, then the banks can't talk to the terminals that are in stores. So you have whole EPOS systems dropping out in stores. So even if you go into the store, you might not be able to pay with your card because the system's out of order. It's just not working. And so everybody then has to go back to using cash. But how do you get money out of the cash machine if there's a problem with the online system?
Yep.
So there are multiple different impacts that are feeding through the economy of not having online access.
I've heard stories from my Russian friends that it's gotten so bad that people are just pulling cash out when they can and basically going back to the old, like, putting money in the mattress. Because there's no consistency of if you can actually have access to money and the ability to buy resources any given day.
And it's estimated that the impact for banking and payment systems is around 25 billion rubles per month. Now, small businesses and remote working have benefited hugely from the growth of the internet over the last 10 years, particularly
Absolutely.
since the COVID-19 pandemic, when everybody became familiar with working remotely. You could just join a meeting online, everybody could be at home, happy days. Obviously, you can't do that if you don't have the internet. And this is causing major problems for lots of businesses. They're having to
Yep.
work around not having access to
A
online
lot of
systems.
Russians
So,
work remotely
absolute
because there's
nightmare.
not too
It's
many
estimated
jobs in
that
Russia.
this is costing business within Russia 40 billion rubles per month at the moment. Now, energy and transport also relies upon the internet. So when you're talking about railways or buses or various other forms of transport and then energy transmissions, everything needs online connections and systems. So if it suddenly goes off for 4 or 5 hours, that can have knock-on implications in terms of potential blackouts, not just internet blackouts, but actually
Load
power
balancing of
blackouts.
electric
You can
grids.
have the railway systems being thrown out because they're not being able to talk to each other to see what's going on. If there's delays in trains, how do you actually communicate that to other people? And it's estimated
Satellite
that the
internet's too
impact on
expensive and it's
energy
not
and
accessible
infrastructure
in
is
a lot of
costing
places,
30
believe it or not.
billion rubles per month. So in total, we're talking between 150 and
Accessible in
200
terms of the
billion
hardware to use
rubles
it.
per month impact, negative impact on the Russian economy. So that's roughly in the region of $3 billion every single month, just because the Kremlin is switching off the internet at certain times because, well, officially it's because of the drone attacks, but it might be for other reasons. So what's the summary and conclusion today? Well, I wanted to post this video because we've been talking about the multiple different implications on the Russian economy of the war in Ukraine over the last 3.5 years. However, I don't think we've talked much about the internet. But in today's video, we've talked about the fact that the Kremlin introduced a law back in 2019, so before the war in Ukraine started, enabling it to have a kill switch to basically create blackouts in any area that it wanted to in Russia for security reasons. Now, officially, since the war in Ukraine has been raging, it said that because of the drone attacks, it would need to bring down the internet in certain regions. Now, I don't know whether that's because those drones were suspected of trying to use 4G or 5G or the internet in Russia to help hit the targets that they were going for. Or
Gotta pause this for a sec. It doesn't make sense to me why they're making that argument when drones don't rely on the internet. They work off of traditional radio frequency control. If anything, they might be doing it so that they can control the flow of information. They've also been seeing that their own troops have been defecting a lot and finding resources by accessing the internet. So I think it has more to do with that.
It was just because they didn't want people messaging each other, or maybe in the regions they didn't want messages being sent to Ukraine, maybe some sort of intelligence type thing. There's no real.
You can fly drones via 4G, but
feels the need to take the internet down.
The type of drones they're using, no, you don't.
That's what it's been doing. So initially, this was just happening in the regions that border onto Ukraine. However,
and there's also latency when you operate it through the internet versus a direct RF.
2025, it's really taken off. And in June, we saw over 650 separate incidents of the internet being taken down.
There's a camera drone that uses Wi-Fi.
Record. So no other
that's
country
Wi-Fi.
is doing this as much as Russia.
Not so much mobile data.
This for the Russian economy are really damaging, because if you think about how your life has changed,
that's on documenting everything.
Years, how much you've become
you should document your things.
Internet. I would bet that if
I have an offline copy of a few important
on everything that
access
you do.
things.
I mean, just the fact that you're watching this on YouTube means that you're currently online, because you can't watch YouTube if you don't have access to the internet.
I get my YouTube videos through snail mail, I'll have you know.
Information side of things. But if you think about it from a commerce point of view, how many businesses have now gone all in on the internet? So many different businesses are solely done online. Amazon, although it has opened a few stores here and there, is basically the biggest online retailer in the world. When you think about buying something, I think most people's initial thoughts are, oh, I wonder if I can get that on Amazon. Can I get it delivered by Prime? Will it come today? Will it come tomorrow? You just expect.
There are videos of long-range Happy Wings fly 100 kilometers.
At your house.
And you can have a radio frequency transmission go 2,500 miles on a first hop off the
3 hours,
atmosphere.
5 hours, a day, a week. Then that would change things materially. And so many businesses are totally reliant on the internet, not just because people want to go on and buy things, but they've set up their systems, their logistics, their supply chains, their meetings.
Tips with beard trimmer you should get.
Pandemic.
I get a Philips One blade. That's a pretty nice one. Works for me.
Face-to-face video call, whether it be on Zoom or Teams or any of the other platforms, FaceTime, all of those type of things. It's just become part of everyday life. But suddenly, if the government decided to start shutting down the internet in your region without telling you in advance, it just suddenly disappeared for the rest of the day, it would have a huge impact on everybody's life. And as we saw, it's having a
I get my YouTube on a disc from the mail, kind of like old Netflix. Exactly.
Around about $3 billion per month being wiped off because the internet isn't available. And that's equating to around about 2% of GDP over the course of a year. Now, that is a huge impact. And this isn't because something's happening that Russia doesn't have control of. This is the Russian government deciding to implement these blackouts to take the internet away from businesses and people in certain regions for whatever reason it decides to do so. So this is essentially self-inflicted on its own economy. And the Russian economy is already on its knees. We've talked about this a lot recently. But Russia is seeing a huge fall in oil and gas revenue at the same time that it's continuing to spend large volumes of money on the war in Ukraine. So the deficit is rising. It's spending more than it's earning. So the last thing that Russia really needs at the moment is to reduce the income that it is earning by switching off the internet multiple times every single month all across the country. But that's exactly what it's doing.
God, he's a little bit long-winded, and I thought I was.
Explanation as to why it's doing it, but it is definitely shooting itself in the foot economically. And the longer that this goes on, the worse it will be for the Russian economy at a time when Russia's already struggling for cash. So the overall summary is that switching off the internet probably isn't the best idea economically, but that's what Russia's doing, and that's reducing its GDP potentially by up to 2% in 2025.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. You found it useful, informative, and thought-provoking, which is what I'm trying to get you to do. Think about things in a slightly different way. So hopefully it's working. If you've liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching this video.
Do you have any recommendations for trackers? Not particularly AirTags, any GPS trackers? Nothing in particular. I've been playing with a few. I was trying to find one of those devices I use around here. I use Meshtastic devices that also do have a GPS, but they have to be within range of other Meshtastic devices to be used. I like my Meshtastic stuff. What have we learned from this video? Russia has an effective firewall. We learned that Russia has a more scary approach to internet control than that. Where do you get your news? I get a lot from Blue Sky and Mastodon, as well as what my community shares and YouTube. And then also, did you know that Dig is back? Yeah, Dig. I'll bring it up. I'll show you. Dig. It's currently invite only. I got an invite. Hold on, I'll log in and I'll show you. It's still in beta, but this is how we used to get news and all that back in the day. They relaunched Dig. It kind of is like Reddit, but not. So this is a lot of how I used to get news back in the day, and I'm hoping that this becomes another source for it. It's still invite only, so you can request an invite, but yeah. So I source it from all over the internet for different things. Yep. Laura Tracker, pretty much. What do you think about Grokpedia? It's literally Wikipedia. It's literally Wikipedia. Like, this isn't even just like hyperbole here. Let me get that. Someone pointed this out to me. Hold on. All right. Where was it? If we... There was somewhere... Something, somebody pointed out to me. I gotta remember where it is. Hold on. Let me find it. Hold on. Somebody literally found where it was using data from Wikipedia. Ah, here we are. Okay. MacBook Air, right? This content is adapted from Wikipedia, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike 4.0 license. It's literally Wikipedia with his own political spin on it. This isn't revolutionary. This isn't, mind-blowing. It's basically, it's just basically a Wikipedia wrapper. You can use Grok offline, but the reality is, Grokopedia is really not anything new or novel. They've admitted that a lot of the pages and stuff are really just coming from Wikipedia. Here's the reality. Elon doesn't really have original ideas. And anyone that comes to me and says, no, he thought up, no. He paid people to come up with those ideas. I want you to think about that. He didn't invent the EV. There were EV vehicles before he came around. There were even some nice ones, like the Toyota RAV4 EV. He did invent PayPal. No, he did not. he had X.com, which got bought out. That's where his whole, like, affinity with... Well, he's had an affinity with X. He had X.com, which was a nightmare. PayPal. I need to find where the history is. There was an article long ago. App, free PayPal. He managed to bury a lot of this news. Ah, here we are. This is from 2023. Before Twitter, there was PayPal. X.com merged with its competitor Confinity, creator of PayPal, co-founded by the billionaire Peter Thiel. Okay? He had X. And there was an article somewhere. I may have to turn off the ad blocker to see some stuff. There was an article I remember reading somewhere that there was like actually legitimate infrastructural issues that people could easily steal money for using X. He did not make PayPal. He merged with PayPal. Very similarly to how he did not found Tesla, he bought Tesla. He just LARPs being smart. Exactly. The actual smart people, he pays. Wikipedia with AI. That's horrible. Tell us more about Dig. Is it good compared to Reddit? So I honestly only just set it up today. So I am running off of nostalgia, basically, for why I got that. Dig is how we used to actually get articles and stuff back in the day. People used to share it there. There used to be buttons on websites. So you know like how Facebook has the share button and all that? That you used to be able to dig it. And yeah, you get all sorts of communities. Right now it's invite only, but you can see there's a number of users there, even as small as it is, like technology. Okay? But the great thing about this was it's like Reddit, but, well, Reddit got a lot of its ideas from Dig. So I am very interested to see how well this does. Oh, they got this. What's this? Dig Daily. Let's see what this is.
Today on Dig Daily,
we bring the headlines, you bring the coffee and mild existential dread.
Microsoft's Zune couldn't dethrone Apple's iPod, despite some innovative features.
And Kevin Rose has a visceral rule for evaluating AI hardware, the punch test.
OpenAI's new Atlas browser is raising questions about its purpose.
AI browsers are also sneaking past paywalls, creating challenges for publishers.
Finally, we delve into a 19th century medical mystery, the Hungry Man of Essex. These are the trending stories on Dig for November 3rd, 2025.
That's
It's Monday,
nice.
the day optimism.
So they have a
quietly
little
gets smothered
AI
by
roundup of all the headlines.
Welcome to Dig Daily.
You bought a flipper, zero thoughts? Nice. What do you plan to do with it?
Our first story today comes from The Verge, written by
Does
David
Dig
Pierce.
support RSS?
It explores
It
why the Zune
literally
never
is
managed to
brand
kill the
new, so they're
iPod,
adding
despite
features.
Microsoft's best efforts.
The Zune launched in 2006, 5 years after the iPod. Microsoft made a lot of the right bets, but it was too little, too late.
It's interesting.
So the way that they're doing Dig now is a little bit interesting because you have like these Dig Daily roundups they're doing with AI to go through that. But like these are the articles that I never get to see normally. Like why the Zune never killed the iPod, even though it's from The Verge. Like I wouldn't have seen this probably if I go around on Reddit. Okay. You're a dick. Okay. But yeah, you got that. How do we get an invite? Go to Dig. Join the wait list. I said, the second I heard about Dig was coming back, I set myself up for a wait list. Like, it just, I think, is recently launched. Like, there's not that many people on it. But yeah, this is, I'm going to be playing with this, and I have the app on my phone. So this is actually how I'm going to be going through and finding a lot of news stories and stuff. Because this is a lot better to me than many other platforms. Because, like, don't get me wrong, Reddit has its moments, but yeah. Tired of your boss sending you messages that start with, but ChatGPT said, I made this informational website inspired by, let me Google that for you, comicsanscriminal.com, nohello.net, motherfucking website.com, stop citing AI.com. Oh. Why does it not work? But I am curious about this. This is a motherfucking website, and it's effing perfect. How did I not know this shit existed? Oh! Now, I knew about nohello.net, but for those of you that aren't familiar with this, do not just send someone hello on Slack or Teams or whatever. You can say hello and have all the formalities and get right to the frickin' point. I have a policy, and many of my coworkers have the same thing. If you send me just hello, I'm not going to respond. Instead, try this. Hiya, what time was that thing? Hey, 3:30. Ta, see you then. No problem. You know, for example, hey man, what's up? Also, any idea when that thing's due? Yeah, you do any of this crap? Ping? You there? You got a sec? Quick question? I'm not going to answer. I even set up an away message that basically says, unless you have, you know, something to actually talk, I have it more nicely said, but, you know, what do cybersecurity specialists do with all the time they save with acronyms? Well, we go on Dig and find random shit. But yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to be pulling a lot of my stories and stuff out. Like, this has not even been up that long. No children allowed. What the hell? This November, Sotheby's will offer Maurizio Catalan's America 2016 a fully functional toilet fashioned from just over 100 kilograms of solid 18-karat gold, which has become one of the century's most influential and infamous artworks. You have 100 kilos of gold, and you make a toilet with it. That is a shitty way to spend your money. Pun intended. Don't you enjoy small talk? No, most of us are on the spectrum. We ain't got time for that. Have you heard of Comet Browser? Is that one of them dumb AI browsers? Oh, yeah. I'm not downloading you. F off. Ew. Ew. People no longer know how to research. How do I install Comet? You know how I know it's absolute garbage too? Their only social media they're really advertising is X. Now they do have a LinkedIn and an Instagram. But if your combo is X, LinkedIn, and Instagram, you are bull. Yeah, I'm never going to touch this browser with a 10-foot pole. In fact, when given the opportunity, I'm going to ban these browsers from being on the corporate network. No! 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 Bad! Bad! We do not use AI browsers! Bad browser! Bad browser! Bad! Zen browser, isn't that just Firefox with a wrapper, basically? That one's okay. That and Florp. There's already a vulnerability with AI browsers. If they summarize a malicious PDF, they break. Well, fam, you know what to do! Oh, are you fine? I'm fine. Let's go for tea. I did a double blinker at the same time. A double blinker? Okay, so we got another video here. Vegas's $2.3 billion sphere is dying faster than anyone expected. So I saw when the sphere was just coming out, I think that was around like DEFCON 31. I saw this thing as a huge waste of money. That thing, I can't believe, cost $2.3 billion. They're never going to recoup their money on it.
When you think of Las Vegas, you think of spectacle, neon, noise, chaos, excess. Yep. A city that constantly tries to outdo itself.
I wonder how hard it was for them to find a video that there wasn't naked people walking around.
What they built in 2023 seemed impossible. A massive glowing orb rising over the desert skyline. 366 feet tall, 516 feet wide, wrapped in 1.2 million LED panels.
Update
the Sphere,
your Tor
the
browser.
most expensive
For the most part,
entertainment
it's
venue
fine.
ever built. It was supposed to be the future of live shows,
how
the
you
crown
use
jewel of
than what
modern
you use.
Vegas. A $2.3 billion monument to human ambition, and when it finally opened, it looked like the city had done it again. But 2 years later, the cracks are starting to show, not just in the finances, but in the idea itself, because the Sphere might not be the future of Vegas.
Nope.
It might be the warning sign that the future already arrived, and it's not what anyone wanted. The Sphere was born out of madness, the kind of madness that only makes sense in Las Vegas.
I do want to experience it, but
James Dolan, the billionaire behind
it's
Madison
still an
Square
overhyped
Garden,
thing.
announced he was building something that would change entertainment forever. Construction
nice.
began in 2019. It was supposed to open by 2021, but then the pandemic hit, construction stopped, costs exploded, and by the time the doors finally opened in September 2023, the price tag had doubled, $2.3 billion. For comparison, that is more than Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play football, and on opening night, it looked worth it. U2's Achtung Baby Live at Sphere show was a global sensation. The visuals were unreal. A 16K screen, 167,000 speakers, and walls that moved with the music. Everyone called it the future of live performance. But the hype didn't last long. In its first year, the Sphere reported an operating loss of nearly $480 million. That's not a typo. Nearly $500 million gone in 12 months. Sphere Entertainment Co., which was spun off from MSG, told investors it was a transition year, but even their own financial reports admitted the obvious.
Recommend an isolated
Ticket
email for
sales,
government
sponsorships,
banking.
and
We'll talk about that in a
advertising
sec.
couldn't cover the
Put a
massive
pin in that.
overhead. The Sphere holds 18,600 seats, but
Is that
many
a better
shows
solution?
only fill half that. The average ticket price for U2's residency was between $250 and $400. For Darren Aronofsky's Postcard from Earth, it's about $120.
Jesus!
Add in production costs, artist fees, and maintenance, and even sellouts aren't enough. Remember, this isn't a casino. The Sphere doesn't make money on gambling or hotel rooms. It relies entirely on shows, events, and advertising from its giant exterior
That's
LED
never gonna make that
screen,
money.
the Exosphere. That lighting brings in sponsorship money from companies like YouTube, Xbox, and Meta, but nowhere near enough to pay off the debt. The Sphere needs constant world-class residencies to survive, but every show requires a brand new 3D production built from scratch. That makes scheduling complicated, expensive, and slow. It's a technical masterpiece, yes, but also a financial nightmare. Inside the Sphere, Sphere, everything is custom. The seats, the speakers, even the software that runs the screens. Nothing is standard and nothing is cheap to replace. A single projector can cost over $100,000. The annual maintenance is in the tens of millions. The electricity bill, more than $1.5 million per month during busy seasons. Behind the scenes, engineers have described constant calibration issues, overheating, and the need for around-the-clock technical teams. Every small glitch means downtime. Every repair means money. Even when the house is full, the profits are razor thin. To the public, the Sphere is a symbol of innovation, but for many of the people working there, it's become a symbol of exhaustion. Technicians and staff say the pace is brutal. Union organizers claim high turnover and unpredictable hours are common. The week Sphere Entertainment celebrated its first anniversary. Several job listings quietly disappeared from their website. Sources say layoffs hit operations and hospitality teams. Not huge numbers, but enough to show that management is tightening spending. When a $2 billion attraction starts trimming staff 2 years after opening, that's not streamlining, that's survival. The real problem isn't just the Sphere, it's Las Vegas itself. Tourism is down, conventions are slower, airfare and hotel prices keep rising, and the city's reputation as an affordable getaway is gone. Visitors are spending more money on basics like food and rooms, and less on entertainment, so when you're charging $200 for a ticket to a show with no celebrity performer, that's a hard sell. In 2025, a UNLV study showed a 6.5% decline in leisure visitors compared to the year before. That might not sound huge, but in Vegas, small drops ripple fast. The Sphere depends on a steady flow of tourists willing to splurge, but that middle-class audience, the one that built Las Vegas, is shrinking. The outside of the Sphere might be the most photographed landmark in the city. You've seen it online, the massive eyeball, the emoji face, the sports logos. It's stunning. But here's the irony. Most of the people taking those photos never go inside. The Exosphere became a tourist attraction on its own. People drive by, film it, post it, and move on. It looks like success, but it doesn't make much money. That's the trap of modern Vegas. Everything is built for social media, not for real experiences. The picture replaced the memory. The post replaced the story. Great for hype, terrible for business. In 2025, Sphere Entertainment announced plans for another Sphere in Abu Dhabi. On the surface, that sounds like confidence, but to a lot of analysts, it looked like a move to find new investors and offset losses in the US. It's a familiar pattern in Vegas. A big idea launches, gets global headlines, and then quietly struggles once. The novelty wears off. Fontainebleau, Resorts World, the same cycle over and over. The Sphere is not failing yet, but it's dangerously close to repeating history. The people who run the Sphere don't live in Las Vegas. They live in corporate offices. And that's the heart of the problem. Vegas was built on instinct, risk, and personality, not on spreadsheets. The Sphere is the complete opposite. Everything about it is calculated, optimized, engineered for...
I've always seen that, and I've just been like, I'm not really interested in going into it. Okay. Got enough about that. I didn't know how expensive that thing was, but yeah, that's definitely something I've always said. That's not going to last. Would you recommend an isolated email for just government banking? No, set up aliases. The easiest way to do that is Proton Mail, which I am affiliated with, so you can use the link in bio to support this channel. But Proton Mail actually has this thing called Simple Login, and I don't recommend things that I wouldn't use myself. Proton Mail has this feature called Simple Login. So you can actually use it with any other email provider, by the way. They include the premium version as part of your paid for license, your subscription with Proton. But you can get up to 10 free alias emails that work with any provider. And you can create these emails. So every different provider I go to, I have a different email set up. And then it ties also into Proton Pass. So I have a different login for everything I do, as well as a different email I give to marketers. So there's no same credentials in any one place. And if there's ever, a compromise, I don't have to worry about the blast radius as much, because it's like, oh, they got whatever Sleepy Hollow Twitter or whatever at passmail.net or simplelogin.io or something like that. But yeah, Proton, one of the best suites for privacy tools all around. There's a reason why I've used it for years, I've recommended it for years, and I've even chosen to affiliate myself with them. So you can check them out. The link's in bio. Help support the channel as well. But I use it myself. Like I said before, I will never recommend anything I would not be willing to use myself. And if I do partner with any company, it's because I actually like their stuff. What do you have for banking government? Proton. I thought I just said that. I use Proton with their simple login add-on, and Proton passed it to create new credentials. And then everything is secured with my YubiKey. Okay, so we got that. I'm really curious about this. This is from another creator that I actually watch. Trump bankrupts MAGA in AI disaster. I watch this guy every so often. He does a great breakdown of different things. You can't even scroll TikTok for 200 euro inside it. Can you please complain about the Apple keyboard? What about the Apple keyboard? It's Apple. Apple hasn't done a good product in years.
Is AI a net good for society, or is it AI? Is it a net bad for society? Is it a net positive or a net negative? And that's the subject of today's video as we listen to some of the things that Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, has to say about this. Let's jump right in.
Because there's also, you have to remember, it's not like nuclear weapons, which are only good for bad things. It's a difficult decision because it can do tremendous good too in healthcare and education. Yep. It'll do tremendous good. And in fact, if you think about it increasing productivity in many, many industries, that should be good. The reason it's bad is because of the way society is organized, so that Musk will get richer and a lot of people get unemployed. And Musk won't care.
The rich will get richer, the poor get poorer.
That's not on AI, that's on how we organize society.
The way things are going right now, the tech bros, and he's using Elon Musk as an example, but they want to basically replace everyone and take all the money, right? And so then you'll have this Tesla rehashing old threats to shareholders to approve Musk 1 trillion payday, right?
I can't believe that's actually a real statement.
It's so ridiculous. Like
that Trump is going to get a 1 trillion package he's asking for.
He's trying to convince everyone over at Tesla that they're going to have the best, AI in the whole world, and you're all going to have
the reality is so much in debt that he needs it so that he doesn't go broke.
Robots walking around. And this has wide implications. Yes, there is some real technology here, and I always acknowledge that. But I think there's real dangers both in how society's structured and also to, like, if we over depend on this stuff, what does it mean to our markets? And what are we all going to do if we don't have jobs? I think anyone who has a serious discussion about this should address this issue.
Suppose that some telescope had seen an alien invasion fleet that was going to get here in about 10 years. We would be scared and we would be doing stuff about it. Well, that's what we have. We're constructing these aliens, but they're going to get here in about 10 years and they're going to be smarter.
That's a good way to put it.
Be thinking very, very hard. How are we going to coexist with these things?
And it's interesting how he refers to the AI as being like, look at the telescope and aliens are coming. Or you could say the asteroid is coming and, we're all going to die kind of thing. And shouldn't we be concerned about it? And I am concerned about it. Actually, I first heard about this stuff way back. I think it was 2000.
Yeah, I like his analogy too, Truth.
I think over at Oak Tree Management with Howard Marks, if you know who that is, it's just a top investor type person in the U.S. And the thing he was talking about was if we replace all of the driving jobs with robots, what are those people going to do? And it's going to create just massive upheaval in society. And so, he's going from a different point of view of like, hey, AI is going to be smarter than us, and there's certainly dangers of that. That's like in 10 years. But either way,
Skynet, bitches.
And a big part and sort of theme of this is that there's so many people out there, like say like a Musk, or if you want to talk about the OpenAI, Altman, they're just looking at the dollar signs.
Right.
And then if you're in a situation you can buy off governments, then suddenly you push way more towards dollar signs. If you want to say capitalism, you can. But we're not talking about the human implications or society implications, which obviously are important. And so, these days you get these headlines, AI is really coming for the jobs, or is AI coming for your job? It certainly felt that way this week in a string of layoffs. This is literally the headlines today in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I've been there. I lived there for a year.
That's the problem. They are much more concerned about the race. They should be much more
concerned about... AI is kind of dumb still, going to be a bit before it takes over.
Whether humanity will survive it. Also, whether society will survive it if you get
the worst it'll be. It's going to get better over time.
One piece of good news, which is all the different countries are aligned in not wanting AI to take over from people. They're anti-aligned for things like cyber attacks or autonomous weapons. They're somewhat aligned for creating viruses. None of them really wants other countries to create viruses. On AI taking over, they will collaborate.
I did enjoy it.
The Chinese Communist Party doesn't want AI to take over. Trump doesn't want AI to take over. They can collaborate on that. That leaves the question of, how do we prevent it taking over? Even if all the countries collaborate.
Trump doesn't want it to take over. Supports all these AI companies.
Him on that, because if you listen to the Trump language, now remember Trump came into office, worked with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk's whole plan was fire as many people as you possibly can. That was the whole Doge thing. And their plan then was to basically give Musk all the contracts and replace all the government systems with his AI or whatever. So I disagree with him on this stuff. I don't,
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that.
He's a smart guy, so I'm not saying he's dumb or anything. I just say I just disagree on that point, because you'll see it too also in the U.S. markets or the way Trump talks. He's like, oh, we're gonna have to be the leader of AI in the whole world, and then talk about building data centers everywhere.
Industrial revolution, in my opinion.
Markets, and then Trump's people go on TV and say, "See, look at all this investment."
It is a bubble, though. Right now, we've talked about that in past streams.
AI. So I disagree. I think people are wanting to essentially replace you because they're looking at profit margins, Trump included. And when you look at our headlines, which is interesting. China's Xi pushes for global AI body at APEC in counter to the USA. And so essentially it's going to be which country is going to take the lead on, do we set up rules for this kind of stuff, right? Obviously, if you're China, or it doesn't matter, Korea or Japan or any country, or if you want to say Germany, if we are going to go in this world,
how about we get rid of all the drug laws and then focus on reining in AI?
Hey, let's make free trade for our solar panels so we can power these things, or let's make free trade for when we develop chips.
It's definitely, the new fad, but
stuff, right?
It's in the dot-com boom phase.
Of who gets to basically sell the technology. That's what it boils down to. I'll read a little bit. It says, Chinese President Xi Jinping took center stage at a meeting at APEC on Saturday to push proposal for a global body to govern artificial intelligence and position China as an alternative to the United States on trade cooperation. That's literally what it says. So that's what the sort of China.
I actually do agree
China
with the coalition globally.
Say to where, because China has so many people, they can just be like, hey, let's just have people work in factories forever because we have so many people and people need jobs. Where the USA has less population, and you also be like, hey, let's automate everything, right? Replace people with robots, or let's ship jobs to other places where workers are cheaper. So it's different point of view on that. I have, like I said, different than Hinton's point of view.
And I think at present...
Ever looked at the Xiaomi phone? Yeah, they look nice.
All the big companies and governments have the wrong model. So their basic model is...
none of this shocks me either.
And this super intelligent AI is the extremely smart executive assistant. I'm the boss. I can fire the executive assistant if she doesn't do what I want. And I just sort of say, make it so, a bit like Star Trek. And the super intelligent AI makes it so, and I get the credit. Great. It's not going to be like that when it's smarter than us and more powerful than us.
Yeah.
That's just the wrong model, I believe. We need to look around and say, is there any model where a less intelligent thing controls a more intelligent thing? And we have one model of that. And it's a model we all know, which is a baby controlling a mother. Evolution put lots of work into allowing the baby to control the mother. And the mother is actually often more concerned about the baby than about herself.
And I think the model that he offers here is actually quite interesting regarding the mother.
Interesting way to put it.
Baby situation where the mother's more intelligent than the baby, but their goal is to take care of the baby.
Countries have traveled.
So when we develop AI,
been
that's probably
Israel,
a good guiding principle there.
Egypt, Germany, Spain. No, not Spain. France. Spain is on my to-do.
Their primary
Portugal,
focus is to take care of
Mexico,
humans.
Canada.
And the problem, though, is you guys know
many
all
different
sci-fi
states.
movies, going in the future, the AI goes
Morocco
haywire and then suddenly does its thing. And so that's why it goes back to where like, or he's saying, hey, we see this.
What TTS do you plan to use for your stream?
Meteor,
I don't know. I got to play around with it.
You want to talk about the robots are coming.
First, I want to focus on the LLM and the N8M workflow, and then the TTS will go in to build all of it.
Generative AI right now?
Not yet. The United States is still a little bit ahead, but not as far ahead as they thought. And in China, you've got a very large number of very competitive, very smart people, very well educated in science and engineering and math.
Yep.
They're educating far more people than the US in those areas. The US has basically relied on immigrants to be smart at those things. China may well overtake the US, and if there's one thing you would do if you were Chinese to ensure that China overtakes the US, is you would stop the funding of basic research in the US, and you would attack the good research universities.
Yep.
Trump looks like he works for Putin.
Yep.
But actually, in attacking the universities and attacking the funding of basic science, he's acting as if he's working for Xi.
And that right there, like hearing his perspective on that, I have to say, it just totally blew my mind.
That is a good way to put it. I never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Actions actually, it's more like working for China and working for Xi. And I'll just say this. I used to teach at Tsinghua University, if you guys are familiar with that. It's considered the MIT of China. A lot of smart people are there. And it's not just Tsinghua. There's a lot of universities in China. And they just have a larger population. And they focus on, graduating as many people as they can and educating as many people as they can in science and tech and math. And in the U.S. model, sort of, how can I say, how many young Americans have been thinking about for decades now is, hey, all the money is in finance. Hey, all the money is in business, right? Which logically it makes sense. So that's why a lot of people go into those finance and business. And then the model is, okay, we're going to either automate everything, right? Create a bunch of robots to push margins to the moon, or we're going to hire people from outside the country to come in, which if you understand that model, it makes sense. I get the money.
Yeah.
We bring in talent to do engineering or whatever. But the problem is in the Trump situation, if you completely destroy that model that's been the U.S. model.
Yeah, we go in a lot of debt for higher education.
You're going to fall behind. I mean, right? It makes sense.
Education is the most important thing to invest in. Which is why I don't understand why the state doesn't take care of it.
I'm just mentioning this. This is my university. It's actually Trump went there also. So did Musk. And, Trump basically just wants to cut funding to universities. It's ridiculous. Basic funding.
Well, not just that. Right? College shouldn't really cost.
He also wants to,
or at least to the level it is.
Essentially, doesn't want to bring in skilled workers. And this has been a strength for the USA. I'm telling you the truth. Like, if you're going to build a company or a sports team or whatever, if you create an environment where you can get the brightest and the best from all around the world, right? Regardless of where you come from or what language you speak or what religion you are, like just get the best people in various fields. Like, you're going to be strong. But if you cut that off and don't train your own people, I think we're in real trouble. That's why it's important to hear this perspective on this stuff. So I liked what he said about the Russia-China thing, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this also.
How deep is that damage? By the way, it's the immigrants you talked about as well. It's not just the direct funding for the research. It's also the brain power coming in from overseas. How deep is that damage, and how immediate may we feel it?
The point about attacking basic research is you don't really feel it for 10, 15, 20 years. Because what you do is you ensure that the really big conceptual breakthroughs won't happen here.
Yep.
And then later on, the Chinese will be way ahead.
The Chinese will be really way ahead. You heard it there. Just play that scenario out, okay? So no one knows exactly what's going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years, right? You don't know exactly. But if today you are bringing in the building blocks to attract the best people in your country. And again, this has been a strength in university, the strength in USA for years is international universities. I've always said that's like a major strength of USA is attracting the best people, right? Encouraging, just basic research. And any number of things. If you're talking about AI, you could talk about, medicine, you could talk about biotech, any number of fields, transportation.
We had a plethora of fields that you could go build and
come out that we don't even know it could be in 20 years. And closing, the borders, defunding research. I hope you guys understand like how this is really, really damaging to America. And I like what he said, where he's saying, not I like, but it just, the practicality of what he said is like, we won't even know the damage until like 10 to 15 years.
Yep.
These are big companies run by serious people, and presumably they.
So that's what happens often is you don't feel the ripple effects of a presidential policy
they
until
want to be the ones to do it first.
the term or two after.
It's going to kill us all. So there's ego involved, but presumably they think there's returns to be made. My worry is that the obvious way to make money out of it, apart from charging fees to use the chatbots, is by replacing jobs.
Yep.
The way you make a company more profitable is replace the workers with something cheaper.
And then you charge the company more,
I think that's a
but
big
less
part of
than
what's
what the worker
driving it.
costs.
Right. And then you get these headlines, UPS cuts 48,000 jobs, right? You guys know this stuff. Unemployment filings hit their highest level since 2021. Or even in my state, new Oregon unemployment claims point to a weaker job market. And then when you look at Trump, the way that he says he's going to save America is to build a bunch of data centers, right? And I always find it crazy that...
And there's not that many employees when you talk about each data center.
In Trump's camp, but other media
compared to
outlets
how many it's going to remove.
And that literally I question every day on the channel, and people don't talk about this that much because on YouTube, if you want to, be popular on YouTube, you tell everyone, hey guys, we got this technology and we're all going to be rich and it's so fantastic, right? But if you just didn't think about the logic of it, it's basically, again, it's designed to replace people, and not everyone's going to benefit. And the way, even Hinton says in the beginning, like the way the society is structured, like Musk is going to get all the money. That's the basic gist of it. It's crazy, and we have to have these.
And Musk is already at the point. He has more money than anyone knows what they could do within a lifetime.
The way things are going, if we don't, stop it the way that it is, I think there's a couple things going on. One is the USA is going to fall further behind other countries, not just China, other countries, and you're going to have massive unemployment.
Your stomach feels weird, never ending.
I mean, one thing I should say is that this is sort of uncharted territory. We've never had things almost as smart as us, which we have now, or things smarter than us, which we'll have soon. We've never been there. We've had things in the Industrial Revolution that got more powerful than us, but we were always in charge of them.
Right.
A steam engine is just a lot more powerful than a horse, but we control the steam engine.
Exactly.
This isn't like that.
It's totally
Also,
different.
If you got unemployed because you used to do ditches, now you have to do something else, you could get a job in a call center. But now those jobs are all going to go.
You're the guy making the video?
It's not clear where those people go.
So he is Chris Norland. I've actually been following him for about a year.
Some economists say these big changes always create new jobs.
He's got great videos.
It's not clear to me that this will.
I watch his videos several times a week.
I think the big companies are betting on it causing massive job replacement by AI, because that's where the big money's going to be.
Right. Like a lot of this is capitalism driven. You could call it greed. He mentions ego, which I think is also part of it. Or you can just use the Elon Musk example. He's kind of always, Musk is always kind of saying the same things, where he's going to go to Mars and he's going to build his robots. But I think what it boils down to is like he wants to beat Altman. Like he'll make personal attacks against other CEOs at other companies. Yeah, I think a lot of it is ego. And the Hinton here was talking about if you were digging a ditch before and AI comes, what are you going to do? Call center, like jobs now gone. And oftentimes I'll see in the comments, this would be from more, the tech bro fanboys and fangirls. You'll see these people say, "Oh, Chris, you're so dumb. Elon Musk is awesome, and new technology always creates new jobs." And so that's the question. What are they going to be? And are there going to be enough of them? I would argue, yes. I think there's certainly going to be jobs in managing the data center. There's going to be jobs in installing data centers, right? Or in jobs of cleaning, maybe mopping the floor. Well, actually, mopping the floor will probably be taken by a robot. There'll be some jobs, but some of these jobs won't be replaced, right? And so then other people say, because I'm going to tell you what people say on the internet. You read the internet, you'll see it.
I do a pretty
Chris,
difficult job, collections.
Jobs. We're all just going to get
That's
universal basic income. We're all just going to get free money.
I used to do IT for a few.
I just don't see that happening anytime soon. That's my opinion. I don't think it's a crazy opinion, but I understand on the internet, hang out with a bunch of teenagers. That's essentially what it ends up being, who don't want to work, don't want to study, don't want to learn anything. Their dream fantasy is, hey, robots do everything for me. and then I just worship Elon Musk, and therefore I can play video games the rest of my life. I know I'm a bit mean here, but I think that
And then before you know it, we have that Futurama episode where you download Lucy Lou's conscious into a robot and you start dating a robot. We're not that far off!
people who are
tap water, spring water.
you're gonna, not do anything and expect someone just to magically give you money. I don't know. I just it doesn't add up for me.
I got 5-gallon jugs out there.
The way that we have to look forward to this stuff is be honest and realistic about it. But I mean, you're pointing out some real big problems here in society. If everything's driven by only profits, I think people are in real trouble. And
this sense, so much of the growth in the stock market, so much of the driving the economy is investment in AI right now. Even if the public were more concerned than they are about some of the risks you described, they're going to say, wait a second, that's what's driving our economy. We don't want to give that up. We don't want to go into a recession.
Some people say that our best hope.
What's happening in Sudan? Oh yeah, the
take over and fail.
The civil war.
We need something to really scare the shit out of us. Something like Chernobyl for AI. I'm not sure I agree with that, but that's certainly a possibility.
And so that's the question. I thought that was a really interesting way to phrase it. The Chernobyl for AI. So what would that be? What would be a AI event that it's like a total meltdown to where people are like, okay,
don't you worry about AI. Let me worry about blank.
All, right? And it's funny because for those of you who like science fiction and the importance of science fiction is that we're thinking about the philosophical implications of the future. Say, I was thinking something like a Dune. If you guys are familiar with Dune, the idea is that some cultures are just like, you know what? We had, AI wars where everyone had a bunch of drones and we all basically killed each other. And now we're going to have, basically moratorium of like, okay, no AI development for anyone. And if you're caught with AI technology, you're out. And actually, if you guys are laughing about this stuff, we actually do have some stuff like that now. Say, for example, what if the world decides that, hey, we can start cloning, people.
Yeah, we have a moratorium on cloning. I remember that was a whole big thing.
I think the world has decided, hey, we're not messing with the cloning of the people stuff. But I think just practically speaking, I'm sure there's going to be some country out there, some secret lab out there is going to figure out how to do these kind of things. And there's a lot of implications with the human and genetics and DNA and I use cloning as one word, but there's different implications on say bioengineering kind of things. I've already seen it already in the Wall Street Journal where parents are like, hey, I can, pick the DNA of my kid. You'll see these articles. It's been popping up.
Designer babies.
And so that's what I was saying to where, we make jokes about.
Oh, I hate how politicized it's become as well. A lot of things don't need to be politicized.
Something that we have to think about seriously. And
I don't know how we politicize masks.
Learning from
with COVID,
the literature, the philosophy,
we politicize the disease,
of the past, and of projecting and trying to anticipate what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, so we'll take ransomware and botnet attacks to a scary level.
Discussion, but I think it's an important discussion.
Maybe.
And I want to hear your views on this.
It could also improve the defenses.
Trump
So let's get on one last video for the night. So apparently AMD had a moment, shall we say. Play video. Played. God damn it. I don't know, YouTube's been kind of weird today. Where I have to like reload it or stuff. Oh, come on. Hold on. I know what I have to fix. Have you seen the FFmpeg thing? What about it? There we go. Fixed it. I had to change setting.
AMD, you done fucked up. Earlier this year, we said, AMD, don't fuck this up, okay? And they just can't seem to stop doing it. In a span of 48 hours, AMD has had to put out 3 panicked statements and updates about what it claims are a mix of errors and no, you don't get it. And on Sunday at about 4:16 p.m., which is only 4 minutes off from the number representing what AMD was on when it put out its newest statement, It said, "You're confused." This is some Asus tier deflection.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
sure we have a lot of prior examples of what happens when companies say, no, you're all confused. Ah, yes, the classic blaming the customer aspect for being confused. NZXT pulled an Asus by calling everybody confused. The millions of you, you're confused. Rather than accepting accountability for...
Let's back up for a second. You see that gray in his hair? That's from all the bullshit he's had to put up with all these vendors all these years. Okay? Steve has been turning into, like, Storm from the X-Men with that, like, line of hair. Was it Storm? Or am I thinking of someone else? But you know, because of all the stress.
Millions of you, you're confused. Rather than accepting accountability for its god-awful communication abilities, AMD leans heavily on the passive voice to say that, quote, there has been some confusion, end quote, and that they want to, quote, clarify misunderstandings, end quote. That's right, and next AMD said
that PR person needs to be
fired before going back to a room full of the world's biggest techno douchebags to beg for more handouts. So it's confusion. It's not that AMD caused mass panic in their consumers as a fault of their own incompetent postings where they had to retcon not one, but 2 errors within 2 days. And it's also not that they moved a still irrelevant GPU architecture into a maintenance branch. No, it is instead your fault for being confused. AMD's brilliance is confounding to even the brightest among us. Among us. Among us. Amogus. AMD. Passive voice, non-apology statement where everybody else is confused, even though in this instance, AMD published objectively incorrect information, like with their USB-C situation, which was one of their 2 retcons they did on that post, and yet somehow...
Wait, what USB-C situation?
It's everyone else who's wrong. Its blog post says similar. They've heard your feedback and want to clear up the confusion. This is corporate gaslighting shit that AMD has a long and storied history of, but for the last year, they hadn't done a whole lot of it. Maybe they're having withdrawals. They missed the sniffing the gaslighting fumes and had to go back for another hit, even though meanwhile Nvidia is off in low fucking Earth orbit with its $5 trillion market cap, making partnerships with Palantir to ensure the AI-fueled
whatever they're paying their editor, they're not paying them enough.
And abandonment of the GPU gaming market, and somehow AMD can't just shut the fuck up and put the GPU in the bag. Before that, this video is brought to you by Haven and their new BF360 Flow case. The Haven BF360 Flow is a
That's a nice looking case.
Focused on performance, with the model that includes fans using 2 180mm front intake fans at 40mm thick, in combination with a 120mm rear exhaust fan. In our previous testing of the case, we found its thermal performance to be among the best performers on our chart.
Really?
The BF360 uses a scooped shroud near the
that's
GPU,
interesting.
and our smoke testing found deflects the air into the leftmost GPU fan for more targeted GPU intake. It also has marked cable management
That's a nice looking case.
rubber grommets on most metal contact points, and what we think is overall good build quality. Learn more about the Haven BF360 Flow at the link in the description below. Here's the quick background. In AMD's 25.10.2 driver release notes on October 29th, the company announced its spookiest announcement yet. Quote, new game support and expanded Vulkan extension support is available to Radeon TM RX 7000 and 9000 series graphics products, end quote, effectively signaling through its communication the end of new game support, or more correctly, optimizations for RDNA 1 and 2 in what we felt was the most unforthcoming way possible. These products are still shipping today and are used outside of DGPUs as well. The company also noted, quote, USB-C power charging has been disabled for Radeon RX 7900 series graphics products.
Wait, what?
Users requiring this feature are recommended to use a prior version, AMD Software Adrenaline Edition 25.3.1, end quote. Following this announcement, AMD clarified its statement to PCGamesHardware.de through machine translation, explaining, quote, RDNA 1 and RDNA 2 graphics cards will continue to receive driver updates for critical security and bug fixes to focus on optimizing and delivering new and improved technologies for the latest GPUs. AMD Software Adrenaline Edition 25.10.2 puts Radeon RX 5000 and 6000 and RX 6000, which is there twice because they hate it so much, and RDNA 2 graphics cards into maintenance mode. Future driver updates with targeted game optimizations will focus on RDNA 3 and RDNA 4 GPUs, end quote. The company also retracted its statement about disabling the USB-C
Talk
power
about
charging
fumbling the
for its
messaging.
RX 7900. As noted by PCGH's appended comment stating, quote, AMD itself has confirmed that the reference to the USB power supply was an error. In a statement to PCGH, AMD apparently said, quote, "We would like to inform you that the recently released release notes for AMD software Adrenaline Edition 25.10.2
Say that 10 times fast. Recently released release notes. Recently released release notes. Recently released release notes.
contained incorrect information. These have since been corrected. There are no changes to the USB-C functionality of the RX 7800 series GPUs in the 25.10.2 driver. The originally released release notes contained a ROM line that was removed. The release notes were updated accordingly." End subquote, end quote. The USB-C situation was what you would call a fuck-up, not confusion. And AMD's best outcome here would be
the professional term.
Just simply apologize for at least causing confusion using a more active voice, if not doing the best, which is that saying it screwed up. Radeon's been the bastard child of AMD ever since AMD bought ATI, which was the parent company of the GPUs that became Radeon. And so
can we just pause for a moment to remember the amazing company that was ATI? ATI was my GPU company of choice for years. Don't get me wrong, I like AMD CPUs, but the GPUs, they just kind of feel lackluster ever since AMD took over.
So it's really not a surprise in some ways that it can't get its own driver release notes right for GPUs that it is still actively supporting as well for its best branches, its kind of mainline branch. In response to the backlash, to the response to the post of the backlash on PC Games Hardware, AMD clarified its clarification to PC Games Hardware to Tom's Hardware in a second clarification post clarifying the original clarification. And clearly, this flow of communication does not contribute to the confusion in any way at all. This is the right way to do it, AMD. You should always make sure you put out a clarifying statement to one publication and then put out a different one to a different publication, clarifying the clarification. That's a good way to do it. I'm getting real nervous about the amount of times that 1080 Ti is shaking. This is really the only GPU I care about in this office. Quote, "New features, bug fixes, and game optimization will continue to be delivered as required by market needs in the maintenance mode branch," end quote, which Tom's Hardware somehow bought wholesale as getting, quote, day zero game support and driver updates, end quote, but that's not what that says, because those words are literally not in that statement. The statement says, delivered as required by market needs in a separate branch. Market needs doesn't mean fucking anything. AMD is vague posting about its GPUs and their support.
Good God.
And then it's turning around and blaming the whole internet for being confused about AMD's own vague posting. So this is a non-committal attempt to stop the bleeding that AMD put out to Tom's Hardware before their newest one that they put out to everybody. And it didn't actually pledge to walking anything back. It did not walk back the statement. It just said it again in a slightly different way. And if anything, we think it's likely that it caused more panic and so-called confusion. And we'd also like to know at what point a user's needs constitute the market's needs, because that's not clear, and that's sort of the problem. So
it feels like one and the same to me.
On Sunday, which is today for me, AMD emailed us this, quote, "Hi, comma," end quote. Hi. Quote, "It appears there has been some confusion regarding the driver we posted on Thursday. To help clarify any misunderstandings, we have published a blog providing additional context. The full text from the blog is included below. .. Continued support for every
Why would you do what the hell formatting is that?
The confusion around the AMD software. As we all know, nesting confusion twice makes it exponentially powerful. This is for Adrenaline Edition 25.10.2 driver release." Quote continues, "This update introduces two optimized driver paths, one for RDNA 1 and 2, Radeon RX 5000 and 6000 series, and one for RDNA 3 and 4, 7000 and 9000 series. Here's what this means for you, camel-cased colon. This is not the end of support for RDNA 1 and RDNA 2. I just want to point this out. I noticed that they were doing double spaces after some of the periods in this, which was originally how MLA and I think APA did it. Typically, I only see double spaces after periods today if something was written by a lawyer. I'm just saying. Like, it's just... Anyway, let's continue.
That is a good call out. I was like, the spacing looks weird.
RX 6000 series GPUs will continue to receive bullet game support for new releases, stability and game optimizations, security and bug fixes. The difference is that these products now benefit from a dedicated stable driver branch, one built on years of tuning and optimization. This approach helps deliver a smoother, more consistent experience for your games while insulating previous generation GPUs from improvements. No, wait, that's not what that says. From rapid changes designed for brand new architectures. I mixed that up. I thought they were saying it insulated them from good things. Also, just can we get some Dramamine for AMD here? The amount of spin is going to give someone a headache. Now, credit to them, this is cleverly written. Quote, our goal is simple, to give every Radeon gamer the best experience possible. By separating the code paths, our engineers can move faster with new features for RDNA 3 and 4, while keeping RDNA 1 and 2 stable and optimized for current and future games, end quote. Again, clever, but these are also synonymous with a reduction of support by nature of what they have written here for RDNA 1 and RDNA 2, which RDNA 2 especially, still actively sold into the market, actually heavily. Quote, our commitment. We've supported Radeon gamers for generations, and that commitment isn't changing. Whether you're gaming on an RX 5000, RX 6000, or latest RX 9000, you'll continue to get the reliability, performance, and care you expect from AMD. Space, not a lawyer, because we're all part of the same gaming community, and every Radeon gamer matters. AMD talks about how it has supported Radeon gamers for generations, but tell that to the 5 people who bought the Radeon 7 or the 20 people who bought Vega. AMD actually has
the Vega, I forgot about that.
Support or allowing some of its GPUs to fall off the cart when it's updating the drivers, and it does so sooner, we think, than its competitor NVIDIA. Actually, there's evidence of this, and maybe that deserves a whole separate video at this point, just like we did for Intel's driver updates. NVIDIA just has better
NVIDIA definitely does have better longevity, especially in the Linux side of things, because now they have the open source drivers, but we've also had the Nouveau drivers. So you can still run older NVIDIA drivers without using official NVIDIA software. So yeah, NVIDIA definitely has been running a little bit better. I'm curious how this will affect Linux, though, in the future, because AMD bakes their drivers directly into the kernel. Are they going to keep the old drivers? How's that going to go? I don't know. We'll see.
Long-term driver support, and that's in spite of the fact that NVIDIA is so busy right now, mostly with shoving AI suppository devices up its own ass. But it's still managed in between the ass-up shoving AI suppository device process to maintain support for the 10.
That's such a great way to phrase it.
It lasted for over 7 years of active support and will now get a commitment for 3 years of ongoing security support. Instead of trying to define this so-called market need in its Tom statement before its newest statement, re-clarifying the clarification of the clarification, we'd propose that AMD actually listen to its community and recommit the actively sold products into the primary driver branch. AMD's bullshit statement makes it seem like RDNA 2 GPUs aren't actively sold anymore, but they are, and a lot, like in lots of products. And it also makes
I saw a bunch at Micro Center the other day.
Latest and greatest optimizations, improvements, and new features added to them for products that are still being sold. Like, this is some spin I saw on Reddit where people were like, it's old. Yeah, it's an old architecture that is sold today in brand new fucking devices that they launched this year. Those should continue to get the priority branch of updates, not this sort of guise of, we want you on the stable one that doesn't get all the latest and greatest stuff and the newest features for products that are 6 months old. So the fact is that the RDNA 2 product is all over the market today. You walk into a Best Buy and buy something with RDNA 2 in it. The bifurcation of support into 2 branches is especially concerning considering the number of RDNA 2 based products in circulation, in addition to all the discrete 5000 and 6000 series GPUs, some of which are still sold and were released between 2019 and 2023, that are now shoved into the second favorite child branch. This branch into a maintenance mode will also affect the Ryzen Z2 Go processor that the company announced less than 6 months ago in June, currently sold in Lenovo Legion Go S handheld.
Oh, God.
The Ryzen Z2A processors, currently sold in the ROG Xbox Ally, which is brand new.
Oh, God.
Variant, as well as all of the 9000HX notebook processors, which the company announced in January of this year. It also affects several current gen consoles, including the PS5, PS5 Pro, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X.
That also affects my 8845HS and my Tuxedo laptop I just got this year.
Not to mention Ryzen 7000 and 9000 series CPUs using iGPUs based on RDNA 2. In October of 2023, AMD released its Chinese exclusive Radeon 6750 GRE in both 10GB and 12GB variants, which means if someone bought it immediately at launch, their new graphics card would have already been moved into the secondary driver branch after seeing priority support for roughly 2 years. The Steam Deck also uses RDNA 2 architecture, but our understanding is that it should be less affected by the change due to Valve's use of doing things itself properly. And so AMD's actions here relating to RDNA 2 being a second-class citizen when it still sells so many products that have RDNA 2, we think is completely ludicrous. It really should be as simple as all actively sold new products get priority branch support. It is that simple.
Totally agree.
Their statement sounds nice. It's a bunch of fucking spin. That's what it is. If you read the statement properly, like carefully, you can see that.
If AMD had just mothballed the products instead of sold them new, this wouldn't be an issue.
Intel is putting AMD to shame right now, as we showed in our recent Battlemage revisit, where we demonstrated how Intel tracked and resolved over 640 issues across 10 months, launched dozens of drivers in that period against AMD's lower quantity of updates, and made more consistent improvements to its software suite. All of this is happening at a time when confidence in NVIDIA's drivers for gaming is at an all-time low as a result of its botched, disgraceful launch at the beginning of this year. And AMD still can't keep itself out of trouble for 10 months. It's not about what AMD said initially at this point. It's also not about what AMD intends at this point. It's about AMD's response to the situation, where AMD's decision was to gaslight and manipulate its consumers into believing that they were confused, rather than just say, we fucked up, we're fixing it. It is that simple. It's reprehensible.
Would have been a lot easier to just do that
by anyone, any more than NVIDIA's own driver fuck-ups that they had all beginning of this year. This is like right when AMD was starting to look kind of competent. Apparently that was by accident or by chance, but it is unbelievably disappointing, which the meme is, it stands for another massive disappointment that continues to be proven true, that AMD can't just keep itself clean. Now, on the other hand, customers could always just stop buying AMD products, or at least its GPUs, if it's going to do this kind of stuff. Maybe then the company will realize that market needs include supporting the
I haven't bought an AMD GPU in years.
Way that consumers can't be confused by. If we're going to go with the confusion narrative, you got to get the communication straight. Look, we're glad AMD is saying it's
Who's
going
confused?
to be better.
We're confused, apparently.
Maybe. But AMD still misrepresented how these events unfolded by gaslighting, and likewise, it's still bifurcating its support and rebranding it with PR spin as a, quote, dedicated stable driver branch, unquote, rather than what it actually is, which is what they originally called it, a maintenance branch. Now, this isn't commonly known, but AMD actually makes its executives, when they sign up, wear a magnet in both their shoe and their mouth so that when they do interviews, they can shove their foot into it more easily. In an exclusive interview with Barron's in November of 2022 during its RX 7000 series launch, AMD's head of graphics engineering, David Wan, was asked, quote, what differentiates AMD's offering versus the competition, end quote. He responded, quote, think about it. You're buying a brand new graphics card and you would like it to be future-proof. This will give you a tremendous benefit, end quote. Now, because he told us to, we did think about it and we agree. That would be a tremendous benefit, especially if you could actually trust what he said in that interview. Thanks to NVIDIA ever looming as competition, AMD is in no position to be screwing up its communication this much. They should be doing anything they can to positively set themselves apart from NVIDIA. In typical Radeon fashion, though, AMD's currently only been successful at setting itself apart the worst ways possible. NVIDIA, for all of the things that it's doing that really suck right now and are corrupt and awful, at least has a track record of maintaining game-optimized drivers with its GPUs with very clear communication, and they give you a long heads up as to when that's going to change. Take, for example, the 1080 Ti, which released in March 2017 and received its final game-ready driver in October 2025, corresponding with the end of Windows 10 support and after over 7 years of support. NVIDIA noted that quarterly security updates would be provided for the next 3 years. If customers have the choice between a GPU that has action and evidence-based updates for going on a decade and possibly as low as a year before being moved into a lower priority branch, we know which one they're going to pick. Even if that means paying more for just the assurance that the drivers will be properly maintained, maybe, throughout the graphics device's entire lifespan.
I remember I wanted a 1080 Ti so bad. They were beasts.
Devices soon. It just transmits the data straight to NVIDIA from your okay, look, it's not the most, it's going to be difficult to market. It's not particularly easy to recommend the alternative in NVIDIA right now, which is a company hell-bent on selling out safety and privacy as Juan jumps for joy with Palantir's executives, but they sure look better in their driver support here than AMD. If a market leader does something good, especially if they're the larger one, the smaller ones are going to have to follow. That's part of the benefit of NVIDIA being where it is. The more they do, that's good. The harder it is going to be for the smaller of the companies to follow them because they just have less funding. So that's why when NVIDIA did its paper launch at the beginning of this year, we basically begged AMD to not fuck this up, and they have repeatedly managed to do so. AMD's Radeon department continues to impress us with its ability to seemingly squander any opportunity it gets. Regardless of AMD's actual intent, its follow-up gaslighting response is damaging to its brand credibility. If there are any meaningful updates to this at this point, if AMD clarifies its clarification of its corrected driver post that it needed to clarify, then we'll let you know probably in hardware news. But until then,
didn't mess up that sentence amazes me.
That NVIDIA stranglehold remains frustratingly unchallenged by its competitors. Intel is starting to challenge that in the low end, but Intel is owned about 4% by NVIDIA, which put $5 billion into it. So AMD, get to it. Come on. All right. That's it for this one before this card falls over. The most valuable thing here. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more. You can go to store.camerasnexus.net to support us directly, like by grabbing one of our Blind Eye t-shirts, which we sold to support our AI GPU black market smuggling documentary. You should check that out if you haven't seen it. And, oh man, this is a global constant through my career, complaining about AMD drivers. They can't keep it clean for like a year. So thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.
Yeah, AMD definitely has been dropping the ball for quite a while. And it's not that hard for them to just, get their acts together. I don't know why. It's been one of those, I've even been wanting to, look at AMD for quite a few years, because I know they work better with Linux, but NVIDIA just... there's more consistency and all of that. Now, NVIDIA's been messing it up lately, too. But there's a reason why I keep going with NVIDIA, because everything LLM and all that is optimized for CUDA cores, so it is what it is. But anyway, I'm gonna call it early a little bit early tonight, because I am tired. I do have work tomorrow. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, to follow me on all of my socials. I'm on Blue Sky, Mastodon, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Kick. I'm going to be working on some more YouTube videos. I got, a few projects coming out for my GitHub I'll be making videos on, and the LLM server that I'm building. Don't forget as well to join the Discord and Matrix server. The links are in the bio for all of you if you want to join. And if you're over on Twitch, stick around for the raid. Otherwise, stay safe, happy hacking, and I love all y'all. See you Wednesday for the next stream.